They're going to be there. And then you can back up a little bit.
My God, this is super exciting. We are going live, people. We're going live from our MedBed pod area. And boom. All right, here we go. So we've got special guest today with us actually for the next couple days, Mr. James Rink from Super Soldier Talks, somebody who has actually been in real med beds. And James, we're finishing lunch a little late today. We've had you on a couple other podcasts today, and we're going to have Katherine here shortly. So welcome to the podcast. I'm going to be managing some of the chat. So if anybody has questions for James on the real med beds, we're going to be able to answer those for you today. And we have Riley. Look at her back there having a great old time here in our med bed center.
Kids over here.
Yes, I got these.
Over here.
You are the kids.
Wait, I got to go down more. Here.
Boom. Oh my gosh. All right. So real med beds, James. Now we're gonna actually, James, we're gonna do a little bit of a teaser. You've got information from President Donald Trump on the release of the med beds. That's actually going to be a show tomorrow. So there is going to actually be a podcast tomorrow. That's going to be another live that we'll promote here shortly. So for anybody that is available tomorrow, it'll go on our channel, obviously, but there's going to be also a podcast tomorrow from information with Donald Trump on the release of the real med beds, the military med beds. So with that being said, Katherine, we have a friend of James, another friend with James, who is also with us today. I'm going to let Katherine, I'm going to let you give a little bit of your background with any med bed technology that you're available, that you might have used, had access to. And then James, we're going to go into your bio once again for anybody that might not know you. Super Soldier Talks, Mr. James Rink. And with that being said, Katherine, go ahead and get us going.
Katherine Ches. My husband was a super soldier in the super soldier program. I met him in 2006. His name was Dr. Anthony Ches. He had many memories of being in the projects. He had told me about how they used serums on him to enhance his capabilities. He was originally from Wanacue, New Jersey, and for his program, he had to go to the east side of New York City to give his blood to doctors up there and to get his injections. It was very similar to the movie The Bourne Legacy, only in that movie they used pills, a blue pill and a red pill, I think, for enhancement of your physical attributes and also your mental attributes. Anthony told me there was nothing like that. It was always a serum, an injection. And he said when they took your blood, they would put it in a centrifuge, spin it around, and they knew you were in the program because it would turn a fluorescent purple. So those super soldiers had that serum going. His call sign was Wolverine. He was one of the first super soldiers that we had in the first super soldier program, which was actually instituted in World War II by the Nazis. So he had told me about this back in 2002. That movie came out, I believe, in 2012. That was related to his particular project. I myself, after Anthony passed away in 2023, I finally reached out to James in person, and he brought me into a couple of the group meetings that we had, and then I found out more about my own abilities. I found out about my spiritual gifts in 2016. So I knew for a few years before 2023, when I met James in person, that I was probably involved in these projects myself. So I do have my own YouTube channel. It's very small, but it's called Queen Supreme Divination. I haven't talked much about the projects in that, but I'm going to start integrating that, speak more about it. We have a conference coming up in October in Orlando. And we're going to have many super soldiers there. We're going to start talking about the projects and how this relates to spirituality, how this relates to the earth and its growth and everybody on it. And I think it's going to be a great time. So I hope that you all can come.
Awesome.
It's awesome. Thanks, Katherine. And we'll put more information out there. That's the Super Soldier Activation Conference that's coming up in October in Orlando, Florida. And with that being said, Mr. James Rink, you are actually back in a MedBed center here right now. We've been using some of the MedBed technologies earlier today. You've got 3 days of using the technology. And you're going to have a host of things. We're going to do a lot of videos. We're going to talk about the meditation cube. But for anybody out there that might not know, Super Soldier Talk, your personal channel on Rumble, also on YouTube, tell us a little bit about James Rink and give us a little bit of your background.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sean, for having me come on here today. So yeah, my name is James Rink and my channel is Super Soldier Talk. So I started this channel back in 2010 to help people that were utilized in these secretive projects. When I started, it was known as a MILAB, a military abduction. And since then, we've learned that it's not just the military abducting these people, it's the military taking these people and using them for 20, 40, 60, 80, and so on. So according to Peter the Insider, ACIO, I've served 330 years in a variety of different clone bodies as a super soldier. So I am a super soldier. I was a Gen 5 Ultra Soldier. My call name was Agent Sabretooth. And I served at different planetary corporations. But my book is Lone Wolf, and you can get that at Neological Tech. You can learn more about I have a whole history of the secret space program. I've got different presentations on my channel, Super Soldier Talk, where I discuss more about this. So, I mean, I have probably 5 hours of content to go through it all. But today I'll pick and choose whatever it is that you want to go through. And if you want to learn more about the conference that's coming up, it's called the I guess I already said Super Soldier Activation Conference. So go to supersoldiercon.com and get yourself your tickets. So we have early bird specials going on right now, and we've got about 22 different people coming. All of them, I believe, almost all of them are super soldiers or served in the secret space program. So it's a great conference, and you'll be able to learn if you are a super soldier or utilized in the secret space program. You probably, if you're watching this, and you probably already know on a subconscious level that you did serve. So check out my work, and thank you all.
So James, this is such a beautiful segue, because being that you were in these various programs, everybody's talking about the real med beds and where are the real med beds and what are the real med beds. And so since you were in these programs and you actually did use these technologies, this really does tie into the technology that you've actually been in. We just had some of your fans, some people that know that you're here, Dolph and Linda, they've been here 3 days in a row going, when's James coming? So we have a few people that are showing up, and James will be here for another day or two. So we're going to have a little time for people in the Richmond, Virginia area. If you want to come meet James, you're more than welcome. We'll be doing things in the afternoon, and you'll be able to sit down and maybe he can sign books, or we'll figure out, but anyway, but for a lot NeoCube, exactly. So the whole thing is, everybody's talking about the real med beds, the government med beds. And as I spoke about earlier, you do have some information from President Donald Trump on the release of the real med beds that everybody's talking about. And we are going to have a live tomorrow at 2:00 where we're going to get into that information that you have written down and get into that. But in the meantime, there's a lot of people that want to know about the med beds, the real med beds. And so we've had discussions before. You actually did a really good presentation about 2 years ago where you went into the various types of med beds, being that there were holographic med beds that were used for regeneration. There is right, and those are the ones when you say you served for how many years?
330.
330. So anybody that's out there, if you can wrap your mind around people going into off-planet programs, technology that can alter time and space, and then being brought back. And when you're being brought back, you're going into those regression medbed chambers where they're literally regressing you back to the point of where you were when you left the Earth planet. And so this is a type of technology that James has actually been in, a technology he's actually used, technology that's actually really out there. We get a lot of questions, James, and I think I said this last time I talked to you, that everybody wants to know when the regression chamber is going to come out. But that's just one of many types of med beds. There's also the ones that actually do the healing, and then we talked actually last time about some that can actually bring people back. But for anybody that's out there, do you want to talk a little bit about the age regression, just to start off with one type of med bed?
Absolutely. So in the secret space program, there's no such thing as death, because many of the people are traumatized and tortured, or even you would utilize the word enslaved. And some people would try to commit suicide to escape the program, or they would do hunger strikes to protest. They would just try to stop eating. And what would happen, they would be sent to the sick bay, and medical would force them to have an injection. So if you try to kill yourself, you would be regenerated, and you would be, and sometimes they would erase the memories, and then you would go right back to it all over again. So this technology has great possibilities and benefits if it's utilized for the right purposes. So obviously, we're not trying to talk about enslaving, enslave people here on planet Earth, but yes, you can bring someone back from the dead. There is a limitation of that technology. Typically, it's 2 weeks. However, there is temporal displacement technology, which allows you to go back in time. So you could say there's basically no such thing as death anymore. If it's more, the secret space program is more advanced than Star Trek, as well as even Star Wars. So that's if you could add medical rejuvenation technology and Star Trek, you would find something quite accurate. And by the way, I've interviewed Jimmy Payne on my show, and he said that the Enterprise was built by the Vulcans, and the reason why it was Captain Jim Kirk, because it was Jimmy Payne actually who served on the Enterprise. So the Enterprise had 4 engines on it, so not like those warp drives. And Spock was about 4 foot tall, and Usura, I don't know how to say that.
Yeah,
the black
Usura,
lady. So
yeah.
that was actually another Vulcan too who served on that craft. Scotty was actually from Scotland, so they just call him Scotty. And anyway, okay, so
But the Star Trek stuff was actually real, based off of.
Yes, that was given to Gene Roddenberry. He did a lot of fictional. Vulcans are real, but yeah, I said that. Klingons, the Star Trek. What was it? Star Trek
Star
3,
Wars.
the one where they go meet God. I just did a show about that one. That was a documentary essentially. And the Star Trek 4, the whales. Remember they were searching for the whales. So that was actually the Loch Ness. So she was pregnant, and they brought her to her homeworld. So anyway, so I jumped around a bit. So to answer your question, do you want to know more specifically how they would age rejuvenate?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about your experience, because if I remember right, there was like a goo or something that you're in the chamber. And actually, I just want to real quick, I'm going to do some real great camera work. James, 2 of your big fans right here, Dolph and Linda, are here. They've been wanting to see you. So they're part of the podcast today. They're not on camera, but they are part of it. And there's
We
probably,
always audience.
we do, and there's probably going to be more people coming again here. So, and Linda and Dolph, if you folks have any questions along the way, feel free to ask James, because you're now officially part of the podcast.
Yeah.
So welcome. But yeah, James, tell us about the actual experience, what the technology looks like that does the age regression.
So what Super Tech DSF described was he was taken from, at the age of 6, abducted from the toilet in his home, and he was brought to Mars. And what they would do typically is show pictures of planet Earth that was destroyed in a cobalt bomb, because another alternate timeline, it was, wasn't it true? 1950, was it Truman or Eisenhower?
Eisenhower.
Right around that time, they told the public the truth that the Germans were in Antarctica. So there was a huge campaign in the US to drop nukes all over Antarctica to try to get rid of them. And what happened is the Germans had a cobalt bomb and it just burned up the whole planet. So in this timeline, obviously that didn't happen, thankfully, but we did develop a national security state as a result of that. So, okay, so they showed a cobalt bomb and that's all your family are all dead. And here's your new German family on Mars at Ares Prima. And at the Mars Academy, he was, they would take a picture of him once a week, which would record his aura. And they also gave him injections, which increased his IQ to about 100. I went from 150 to 250. So at the end of his service, 20 years, as a super tech, like an engineer, super tech engineer, he was brought in by a German named Gabriel. And this German said that not all Germans are bad and that unfortunately, we're going to have to re-age you and send you back and wipe your memories. So what he described was a HET, a holographic examination table. And he was placed in this thing where these photographs would reverse a picture and you would be placed in this tank of magnetic gel. And what it would do, you would first of all be restrained. You couldn't move, obviously, so if it was 20 years, that would be 2 weeks. Typically, it is 1 day restraint for 10 years. Is that like 2 years per day? So you could be in there for 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how long you served, and you're not allowed to move. And at that point, your memories will be wiped, and you would be sent back in time to the point where they took you. And they essentially hijacked, we have this reincarnation cycle. They hijacked it and enslaved to create a cheap workforce. So now if this technology was released to the planet, it would create, obviously, we could live for a lot longer, but it also create certain issues about overpopulation. And so what we would need is to become an intergalactic civilization, so that way we don't overpopulate the planet. We can just spill over somewhere else, another world. But until humanity is ready, there's still more work to do. I'm going to discuss that tomorrow in my report from Donald Trump. But until then, we're going to be working with the best we have. Now, Sean has come up with has some great options for the work that he's doing. There is technology here that can rejuvenate. I don't know necessarily you're gonna regrow arm. Can we do that? I guess Bob Becker was working on that with the silver electrons, where they would electrical charge. They studied salamanders, how it could regenerate limbs. So you can regenerate. Yeah, but
There's some work with sea squirts too that have regenerative.
Does anybody have any questions?
Linda, Dolph, any questions?
Yeah, might have missed it, but I was wondering about the difference between super soldiers and regular soldiers. I was a regular guy, and I was in the Vietnam situation. And so your super soldier body is different than the one you have now, right?
Affirmative. Yes, I will answer that. So as a child, when I was in grade school, I had a pen name by the name of Martin. And when I came across my own self-awakening, and through my interviews with Peter the Insider, he actually confirmed it, that my name back then was James Martin Reelsberg. And I had 5 Purple Hearts in Vietnam, and I died in Persia, which would have been called Iran, 1979. I would have died U.S. Army, Delta. So at that point, I think they took my body to Dulce and re-aged it and then put me with my current mother. So that as part of Project Surrogate, we were just recycled over and over again. We don't go back to the reincarnation cycle. So now, as far as the other question of being the difference between typical, we could say, armed forces and a super soldier. So the difference would be someone that served in the armed forces could be considered a sacrificial lamb, whereas a super soldier would be regenerated over and over again through the variety of holographic medical rejuvenation technology, which, by the way, the U.S. Army does have a few of these med beds they got from the Draco. I know there's some at Fort Hood. and but they're like underground. So, is anybody here familiar with the Heather material?
No.
Heather Anderson. So years ago, I did some videos with Ben Murphy. Ben Murphy actually went public on Carrie Cassidy's show. So he was in contact with this Heather Anderson. What she said, there was an underground dump below Orlando where they were taking dead Iraqi soldiers and reanimating them. So what they were trying to do is put these HGEY wires, which would create a state of 0 point. So it's like a Kundalini activation where they would have enhanced strength, enhanced abilities, and they were giving them injections. They took out their, I guess, their digestion system. So even though they didn't need to eat, they were always hungry and they were starving. And one day she got the order from her superiors that they're going to take titanium bones and clone tissue over it. So all these dead, reanimated soldiers were no longer needed. So she said that they put them in a tank and then they extracted omega-3, and that was made by Merck from pharmaceuticals. So I would not recommend anybody using any of their products, but you could do what you want to. So that was what they call pharmaceutical grade vitamins. So
James, anybody watching right now, we're live, and if you want to go in the chat, when are they coming? Mr. North, we are going to have a special announcement from information that James just came back from the inauguration with Katherine, and he has information from Donald Trump on what the timeline is looking like for the release of the actual med beds, the military med beds that everybody's talking about. That'll be at the same time tomorrow. Today, we're doing a question and answer about the med beds to give people more information on that. And James, Dolph brought up a really great question. What is the difference between a military soldier and a super soldier? And you had talked previously about how there's a cloning process and they're doing off planet. But one of the things you talked about was work that's done on Mars, where you were going in and literally going to battle with the soldier or with the spider people, and different like types of missions that you went on. And if it's possible, maybe we could dive into some of those missions and some of the things that you did off planet.
Yeah, so I remember only one mission on Mars. Now, through people I've interviewed, there was discussions about spiders. Typically, they can run a lot faster than you. The atmosphere is equivalent to about 12,000 feet. I don't know what that is in meters for those people who do not live in the U.S. But and the temperatures is like in the 50s, right? Fahrenheit for those of you. I don't know what that is. Okay. So the air is very breathable on Mars, but the problem is on the equatorial region, there's a lot of electrical activity storms. So all the electronics get fried. So everything either has to be underground or you can build out a facility in the north or south latitudes. Now, the problem is, well, not really a problem, I guess, for them anyway. All the parts of Mars were already claimed by other beings. So we had these antid-like creatures, mantid creatures. We have reptilian beings. There was even a native Martian population that had like an olive-colored skin that was adapted to the low oxygen environment. So ultimately, the Americans anyway, like I said, I don't know. The Germans, what Aries Prime is that in the northern? That's probably I think that's in the northern latitude on Mars. So yeah. So on this particular mission that I was sent on, I went into this underground complex, and when we get down there, my crew and I go down this hallway. There's these alien glyphs on the walls, and it's a Keyban type language, type of gray. And then when I get down into this complex, there's this reptilian. He's angry. He's spitting. He says humans are foul. They want us off Mars. And we ask what happened, because in this particular facility, humans were working alongside reptilians, and there was an argument over something. And what they described was it was the humans' fault, and we looked into their mind, and they were telling the truth. So we allowed them to escape, and there was a portal tech on the base. So when we got back to the ship, we were reprogrammed, and they were not very happy. There was a trip seat protocol where they would inject you with a drug that would prevent you from losing consciousness while being tortured. So yeah, there's different ways of motivating a super soldier, but yeah, they can torture all they want, but the ultimate goal, they can't take our humanity away. Because I discussed the different types of super soldiers. Typically, the more later generation models would be more and more cybernetic. As you become more cybernetic, you lose your humanity, your ability to have your heart consciousness. So
Generation models. When you say generation models,
Yeah.
what would you
Okay.
consider your generation model?
Gen 5.
Okay.
Okay, so now there are different types of super soldiers. When I say Gen 5 or even Gen 11, what I'm referring to are ultra soldiers. So ultra soldiers were created by paperclip Germans that were brought to this country, and they would have taken a Gen 1 model, would have been someone from the Korean War, someone who had special psionic abilities. I hate these words, psychic, but psychic psionic abilities. And that particular soldier would have been experimented on. Maybe they would put alien DNA or animal DNA and to create a next generation. So that would have been like the 1960s or so. In the 1970s, we would have Gen 3 or Gen 4 going into the late 70s. So the Gen 3, Gen 4 models would have used more like implants, or like I mentioned, those wires they would put in you. They would give you, of course, drugs. And then as we get more into Gen 5, it's more cybernetic, where it could be the left side there'll be an eyepiece that was heat seeking, but also interdimensional. It could see interdimensionally. So the right side would be normal. And then as you go up into more higher generations, you would become more and more cybernetic. And I don't know if I mentioned this, I might have did it on the other show. You remember in the Aliens movie, there was a cyborg that got eaten in half, and it was like this white liquid came out. So those are real, by the way. By the way, the Aliens movie was a documentary. So the Denver airport has a time capsule that's due to be open the same time when I forgot what the name of the humans, those advanced humans are supposed to be coming back to our planet, that they in Prometheus. Okay. Anyway, I'm jumping over here, but so I think I might have answered the question about the Mars mission.
Yeah, the Mars mission, and that that's the kind of things that are going on. That when you talk about med beds, it's very hard to talk about these types of med beds without getting into very covert or sort of black ops type programs, because that's the technology's coming from these areas. It's going to be brought back down into the general public here at some time in the future. Once again, we're going to be talking about that tomorrow. And Riley, do you have any questions right now for James or Linda?
We told them tomorrow at 2, right?
Tomorrow at 2:00 is when we're going to read the statement from Dr. from
Eastern time.
Eastern time, 11 Pacific.
Yeah. Good point there.
Yes, so that is what we're going to get into, and then we'll get into the technologies that are going to be coming out, that are going to be made to the public. A lot of big changes coming right now. I think everybody knows that, and I think that's really quite obvious within the last few days with President Trump getting in. And James has got, like I said, more information on that. James, we talked a little bit about the age regression technology. There's also a lot of people talk about the holographic, which I think you touched on. What other types of med beds do they have in these sort of other programs, Dark Ops?
And let me add in real quick that this is basically a second video to the first video that we did with
Yes.
James to start that series. So you can also go back to our channel, USA MedBed 369 on YouTube, and you can start watching that first video, and that'll catch you up a little bit into the rest of the series. But go ahead.
That's a great point, and that's in the live section. So when you're looking for the videos, they're going under the lives and not under the video category. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, so
Whenever we get to that.
Go ahead, Dole.
So
Dole.
we have a
Okay, sorry.
technology called Meditech. So Think about a soldier just got eaten in half, bleeding out, and probably already dead. So you would take the body, what's left of it, and place it into a Meditech type device, which would place the body in stasis. Now, you don't necessarily need to do that because you can clone from a teaspoon of DNA of brain matter, right?
Mhm.
You can clone it and
Into-
make your super soldier come back, and or yeah, you place the body in stasis and bring it back. You have something called a total recall chair, and if an underground base ever gets taken over, invaded, usually the first thing they go for is the trip chair, because there's about $20 million worth of gold and silver and platinum in that thing. So what that does, it inserts memories or can take memories out. You can take memories from, I just watched the Matrix last night, so flying a helicopter, right? You could insert memories like that. Or you could erase a memory. So this particular technology could eliminate ignorance on this planet. We could, instead of a child spending 20 years of their lives going through school, they could sit in the thing for 2 weeks and then they can just spend the rest. They can spend their lives being creative, which is what we, as a being with a soul, that's what we can. Our highest potential is for our own creativity. So AI, on the other hand, does not have that connection. So AI can only mimic. So let AI take over. I mean, not take manage parts of our reality where it's good and where it's good in, and then we can focus. We are liberated from this whole slave grid that we live in. So you were asking. Okay, so total recall share. There would be a holographic readout, and you can pick and choose what memories you want into the super soldier asset, similar to the TV show Dollhouse and obviously the Total Recall movies, where they were giving you a lot of soft disclosure. So the doctor would come out, exit the room, and then a bunch of orbs would appear in the room, and then your memories would be all gone or changed or whatever they wanted. So there's also, we have the soul. I think I already talked about, right? The soul chair, where they take your soul away, you become transparent, and your consciousness could project into, say, mantis body, and you could walk around on the craft as a mantis with other mantises. Let's see here. There's, of course, the remote viewing chair, similar to what was described by those like myself that was at Montauk. I don't specifically remember the soul chair, but what I can tell you is that there was a crashed ship that was occupied by the Greys, and they're about 3 foot tall. So they pulled this, and what would happen is the Grey would use the ship to telepathically open up portals. So this consciousness chair would have been brought into, say, a facility like Montauk. Now there were about, I think it was like 11 or 12 of those SAGE radar towers built back in the 1940s, right? When we had the satellite technology. So every one of those SAGE radar towers had a facility where they would take one of these conscious chairs, or could put one down, and the child, usually the child, because they would be able to fit into the chair better than an adult anyway. And they also, children would have more creative, more imagination, and not as much restrictions, the belief that you can't do it. So by placing a child on there, they would be able to open up a portal. As long as the focus lasted long enough, you could potentially walk the portal or come back. And according to Stuart Swirlow, there was about 200,000 children that went missing. Now, that doesn't mean that they're dead. So some of them, they were opening up portals to like fairy realms. And so there's all these different dimensions, different times. They would go into the future, the past, changing history. Originally South won the Civil War. Well, it was a truce. So you're living in yeah. But ultimately, I believe God decides what's the best timeline to be on, and either way, we are all powerful beings to co-create. Right. So I think that pretty much covers the chairs. We already talked about holographic examination tables where there's an AI component that creates a hologram of what your perfect health would be. And then lasers would apply this field of energy similar to what we saw with the Anton Priori technology, where you would try to look into another reality timeline of your perfect health, and then the body would try to create that image. So, and then of course, regular regen tanks where you would have this magnetic gel of different types of goos, typically be a green goo for healing, but then there's blue goos for more of a long-term stasis, and heaven forbid black goo. So, and there's also a red goo, which not many people talk about. The red goo cybernates you, so you probably don't want too much of that. So, and the black goo is a terraforming goo. But the problem is, once it gets into the environment, it can create a lot of problems. It can replicate out of control, and there are planets out there, systems out there that are infected with black goo. And I remember Johann Fritz was discussing about this mission where they received a message, a Mayday signal to come out and try to help. And when they arrived, this whole ship was being consumed by black goo. They immediately got out of the sector. So yeah, there's a lot of good out there, a lot of bad too. So the key is to educate yourself so you can make the right decisions on your own.
James, great answer. So the technology coming off planet, do you know, like, is this Palladian technology? Do you know if there's a specific, is there a specific group of extraterrestrials that are really good at developing the technology? Do you know where some of the medbed technology is coming from that's off planet?
That's a very good question. So when the Germans first left our planet back in the 1930s, they were using the spinning mercury drives that would spin about 100,000 RPMs of this red mercury that was highly radioactive. And it would be the Mantis who felt bad for them. Now, there's other groups out there. Typically, you would need to have a med bed if you're a space-faring civilization, because there is so much potential of what could go wrong. Space is extremely deadly for the physical vessel, but there is a intergalactic trade out there. So typically, it would be DNA is what is traded, and so that would be the currency you could trade with other species, other races. Essentially, what the Germans did, and of course, when the Americans came on board and they wanted to go after with the German technology, that's where I think it was William Tompkins. He discussed the patent for the med bed is owned by TRW, which is now owned by, I think, was it Lockheed, right? Sean, do you know? Is it
Sure.
TRW? So the patent, it does exist, and we have the potential to heal this planet, but there's a reason. Yeah, I'll tell you tomorrow the reason.
Yeah, we're gonna, like, for anybody that's just jumping on, James just got back to the inauguration. There's going to be a 2:00 live that we're going to do where he's going to go over East Coast time, 11 a.m. PST, where James is going to talk about feedback from Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, on what the timeline is looking like right now for the free government med beds. Although, James, you bring up a great point, because even though they're free government med beds, they're actually being built by defense contractors. And there's a lot of people out there right now that have worked in the defense contractor industry and been around it. And there's a lot of technology right now that is available. Everybody, is still on this thing where they got to have these free government med beds. But, everybody knows the government doesn't do anything themselves. They subcontract all that stuff out. And so we have technology like the EE system with Dr. Sandra Rose Michael. We have the Therifying, the dual tube plasma energy systems by Mr. Dan Winter. There's a lot of powerful technology, and actually you're here for the next 3 days using a lot of the technology that's out there that's now available. So for people that are out there right now, eesystem.com, you can go down in our description. You can source and find a lot of technology out there that's available right now. James, you met Dr. Michael, Dr. Sandra Rose Michael. Give us a little bit of feedback on that experience.
Hi, Dr. Sandra Michael Rose. So yes, if you're watching this, I know you're probably a really busy person, probably not watching it, but either way, yes, I've been in her house and used her and unit, and pancakes she makes are really good. So
She makes the best pancakes.
so yes, organic, of course. Now, the EE system, energy enhancement system, has a series of these screens at different. You would have four quadrants. At least this one had four quadrants, and there would be a scalar frequency given off, which would match at this 0 point in the center of the room. And my experience was I felt a lot more calmer and relaxed. And once you can relax, you can release a lot of trauma, a lot of stress in your body. And stress creates toxicity in your body that causes a lot of dis-ease. So you can integrate yourself. So there are energy enhancement systems. I don't know if it's in every country in the world now, probably, maybe.
Pretty much, at least 50 or 60 countries.
You could find one nearby, so I highly recommend it. And yeah, I think she's doing great work. I know she's working on a system where she's trying to create like gymnasium size units where we can heal veterans, or maybe just heal people in general. It might be nice to do that too, right? So yeah, and I make my own type of energy enhancement system with my meditation device. So it's right over there, Sean.
I have one question.
Okay, yeah. What's your question?
The question is, what do you know about the Venusian systems and how good are they?
Okay, so the question is about the Venusian system. Yeah, so the civilization is in a higher dimension. So now one thing you want to question yourself. They're saying the temperature of Venus right now is 700 degrees or something like that, right?
Yeah.
400. How would the parachute be able to be on the ground and not be fried up if it's that hot? So obviously NASA's lying to you about the temperature, but I believe that civilization is in a higher dimension. So Venus is a tropical world, and it's a very peace-loving world. I know was a cosmic agency said that they were taking people through portals in Vietnam and fighting on Venus. I've not been able to confirm that, but I like to believe. Yeah. Do you think you might have gone through the portal?
I didn't,
Okay.
but some of my partners did.
They think they did. Okay. So now Venus is a planet controlled by the cabal. There are pleasure centers there along the beach where the cabal members would go to for R&R, but obviously, we can't go there. But we had people like Valiant Thor, who was working with the Alliance, trying to rein in a new peaceful age. So I have talked to Valiant Thor through regression, and he currently resides underneath Geneva in Switzerland, and there's an underground base there. So he's doing a great job for the work. I mean, there's a lot more to do to clean up this planet, but okay, did that answer your question about Venus?
A little bit. I was just saying, how does that compare to the other med beds?
What the Venusians have?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to answer that question. I've not heard that there was a difference, but if there is, I would love to be in one. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear they're more advanced in some ways, and
Sure.
they're working with people on the earth right now.
Okay. Yeah, we have different races like Arcturians. We have the Andromedans. We have, of course, the Pleiadians, the Syrians. There's so many different groups. All have different med beds, and ultimately, it would be up to us as a whole population that we need to, if we could get some. Well, I believe it's the leadership issue, but there's a lot of complexity about the reason why it's not been released right now. I will share some of those reasons with you, and I would tell you why I think it's wrong, but why I think some of those reasons. I disagree with those reasons, but okay.
But once again, we're gonna talk about that tomorrow. I wanted to bring the camera over to Dolph, and as you can clearly see, I'm not made for TV cameraman, but Dolph is a veteran, former Marine, former Air Force. He's also had very high level clearances and knows a lot about the subject matter as well. He's a regular guest here at our location, and him and his wife Linda are very well known in the community, but also are very familiar with a lot of the technology, including the EE system, which is out there right now. And James, one thing I want to bring up about the EE system is that originally Dr. Sandra's parents were deep into various military projects. They were high level. They worked on the nuclear bomb. There was different things. Mom was in one department, dad was in the other. She grew up very well entrenched in military-based defense contractor type things. That technology, when she first got that system out, that medbed technology was first being used by very high-level military government officials. There were generals, colonels, everybody in the military already knew. So everybody's talking about one of the free military medbeds. Anybody that's not versed with this stuff, there is military-based technology, and like we just said 5 minutes ago, the government doesn't make the technology. The technology, like James just said earlier, is being made by defense contractors. So that is something that's really important. So for anybody sitting around thinking that they got to wait for this or wait for that, and now the free government med beds are super powerful, and Dolph knows a lot about that technology. Technology that's coming from Pleiadians, that's actually coming from Venus.
Yeah.
And Dolphin, we can give you a segment here as well, where you can, talk a little bit about that with your intel that you've got, being that you've got really good clearance in that. But this is really good subject matter right now because, James, you've actually been to Dr. Sandra's home. You've been around the technology, and yeah, it's very, very good technology that's out there right now. One other question, and I want to dive back into the super soldier thing. So for anybody that's out there that's not familiar with the super soldier, Katherine, your husband was a super soldier, which you talked about when we first started the show. James, we talked about some of your time on Mars, dealing with the spider people. And for anybody that's not aware, James has a channel on YouTube, which is Super Soldier Talk. That channel has been online now for over 15 years, I believe, since 2008. And James interviews other people that have been in these various programs with him. And James, one of the things that I want to talk about as well, when your segment rolls up and you're getting ready to start your episode, there's like a 30-second clip, and that's you kind of going through this like super soldier like program, and then everybody's grabbing like these high-end guns and stuff, and they're running off the spaceship because those are the types of operations you guys were going on out in space. Do you have any other memories of any other battles or things that you did, or any other missions that you went on as a super soldier that were kind of related to that type of a backdrop?
Well, there was this one mission like on this desert world where I was all geared up, and I remember seeing there was like a large invasion from the sky, and I believe that was actually on the wrong side. It's probably like a Dark Fleet memory. There was another memory where I went to, it was like one of these Galactic Federation worlds, and this was right around time Corey Good's handler, what was his name, Rodriguez? I'm trying to remember. The ICC was spying on the Galactic Federation's capabilities, and he got caught. So because I was in Noctwab or Dark Fleet at that time, I was called away. But while I was in this shop, there was like this feline creature, and I was looking at these crystals, and they didn't. It's like think of the time of the Soviet Union, and there was the American embassy, and you're allowed to go outside the embassy within a certain distance, sort of like being like in the Red Square or whatnot. And so that's what it was like at that time. And so I got download of my life on planet Earth. And so when I got back to the ship, everyone was debriefed, and they were already watching me. I was on a not total hunger strike. I would like skip some food. I would eat some of it, but not all of it. And there were people there that weren't eating all their food, and they were sent to the sick bay, but I didn't have. So when you are typically, they would they wouldn't give you a lot of rations of food to begin with because they find that when you're hungry, you're more psychic and you have more abilities. So they kept our rations really low to begin with. And then I started getting more downloads of my life on planet Earth. And then when they found out, they put me through the Trip C protocol, and then they increased my alcohol rations because I know I had like a little beer stein in my my quarters. And I remember like the quarters would always stink because I didn't really like being on the ship. I just didn't want to be, and I was a navigation asset, so I had a little bit more freedom than other people. And yeah, I remember Penny Bradley was there. Yeah. So
Hey, just real quick, I'm going to give a shout out everybody on our chat today. Thank you for being on. Mr. T North or Miss T North, thank you. When are they coming? We're going to answer that tomorrow. K4NG Kong, happy to help if you can. Dolph actually is going to have some information on how people will be able to help here in the future. Dolph has got a lot of information. Where can we learn to use the med bed to help folks heal? And Dredjka, thank you so much. We're going to cover that in some future episodes. So when they're arriving in Canada right now does have the EE system. So if anybody's out there right now and they've made certain protocols for using the system where there's a very limited financial obligation there, many places will allow you to use it for free. And so if you're a veteran or different things, you can go look up EE system. That's all going to be in the description. Monica Mearns, when will the general population suffering on Vancouver Island gain access? Cervical spinal cord injury. That is coming. There's a gentleman named Don Ballard who is got some of the technology in Vancouver or Vancouver Island, the Vancouver part. Don Ballard has the bioscan technology that has the corrective frequencies that'll go through and really do a whole number on the whole body. And then he also has the plasma energy spheres, which are very powerful, dual tube plasma energy, conscious energy field. So that's out there. I will try to get you connected with that, Miss T North. Tomorrow's release, yes. I made a live track. Greetings to all. T from Ohio, thank you for joining. Thanks for joining. And Burr, it's cold out here as well in Richmond, Virginia. And Monica Mearns, yes, have been in it several times. So if anybody else has any questions while James is here, we're always happy to answer those. And we appreciate your feedback. As free, you can have one at your home with Judy Bidenton. There is a lot of medbed technology that's coming out. We are seeing a huge increase right now in the timelines. We're seeing a lot of things really accelerating with things like this coming out. And there's going to be a lot of new things coming up. Nest Force, where was your question there, sir? I don't, or
You might have to
ma'am?
scroll up.
Oh, I might have to scroll up. Wow. We're getting a lot of questions here. Let me see if I can.
I was just on Vancouver Island. Yeah, it's really beautiful over there. I went to the miniature museum and I think it's called the Buck Art Gardens, Butcher. I can't remember, but that was last April. So yeah, it's a beautiful place. So while we're looking for a question,
Nest Force, if you could ask that question again.
Go through.
It didn't go through. It might have just, I didn't see it here on the chat. And if it's possible, Dolph, you've got a lot of information on the MedBed release, what that's going to mean, who's going to get access to those, what the terms of that. We don't have to talk about that today, but you know, there's a lot more information that's going to be coming out on that. And we have been on now for how long? We've been on almost an hour. So we are going to be doing another podcast tomorrow at 2:00. James coming back from the inauguration is going to have a lot of information on that. So that's going to be very exciting.
We're looking forward to that.
Proof or claims? Wow. Yeah, you know, there's no proof or claims that medbeds exist actually, but
proof or claim, well, we have anecdotal evidence. Right?
Yeah.
But certainly, I believe it's real, and I remember I remember a trip chair, but we also I wanted to mention earlier, William Tompkins discussed about this pill that you could take that would reverse your age. And not only that, it would increase, turn on all your dormant psychic abilities that we're all supposed to have to begin with. So, and I know Jimmy Payne mentioned that there were Germans that are 150, 130 years old now, living down in Area 51. So that's another reason why this technology hasn't been released from these skunk works, is because many of them were Nazis, and Americans don't like Nazis. So we have to have an issue where we have to have amnesty for some of these people in order for them to release their technology. But ultimately, yeah, it's a very difficult subject right now, controversial to deal with.
Actually, to address your one question you had asked about his body not being a super soldier, and I think he touched on it briefly in there, that it depends on your generation.
Mhm.
My husband looked like a bodybuilder,
Mhm.
okay, and he had a doctorate. So I witnessed him pick up a man by his throat and squeeze his neck and his larynx, and he had him up in the air, and the man started convulsing, and his eyeballs fell in the back of his head, and a bouncer had to come and pull him away. So, and he snatched him in the air just like that.
Wow.
Okay. His body was enhanced, the body he was in here. All right. His call sign was Wolverine. And he was a super soldier. I'm also a super soldier, only I didn't figure that out until I met James and I went to Montauk. My call sign is Sunshine. We each have call signs. He touched on it as well. His call sign is Sabretooth. So it's like the X-Men movies. Those movies are made from information that they get from the CIA. The CIA knows about
Was given
black projects,
CIA.
and then they give that information to Hollywood, and they make all these movies. So the X-Men movies,
And then they fund them from
the Star Wars movies he was touching on, the Star Trek movies, the Suicide Squad movies. I Am Number 4, that movie. So there's several, Predator, yeah, all those movies. There's several movies that are based upon
His name was John Rumble.
us.
Wow.
I just changed it to Rambo.
So my husband was in
Very
his body, and he did have a lot of abilities. Now, also, when we were in Montauk, that super abilities that you were talking about, I projected my soul into a portal, a space-time portal. So I was able to pull the men out of the USS Eldridge and reassemble their bodies with their souls. And I had that ability because it's also called astro traveling, but I put my soul through the portal, and that's why I was able to do those things. So my physical body wasn't doing it. It was an astral body.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And you are very powerful, just
But-
being around you guys.
Also, I remembered a mission that I was in through quantum hypnosis therapy, and they put me on a ship that was out in deep space, but I was sitting on a beach that was in Melbourne Beach, Florida, by Patrick Space Force Base now, and I was 20 years old. They took my soul, so I was astro traveled out of my body that was sitting there and put in another body, which was either a clone body or a very similar body, same body, but on a ship with other people about my age. And we had on these helmets that looked like, almost like it was the same black that you have on your cell phones, that same kind of material, and camo type attire, black shirts, black combat boots, brown pants that were like military style pants, and a black like leather strap with I guess like a lightsaber type strap on your leg. But that was time dilation, because I was on that beach for it only seemed like a minute or a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes, but apparently I was out in deep space in another body. So they can also take your soul and put it into another body when they need you out in space.
Amazing. And so with that being said, well, we're wrapping up the 1 hour mark here, and I think we're going to wrap this up for today. James, once again, now you've had access, you're using the celestial pod, the plasma spheres. We've got a lot of technology that's here right now that you and Katherine will be using for the next few days while you're here. So we'll get your feedback on that. And once again, everybody, tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, James is going to go through notes from information from President Donald Trump on the release of the MedBeds updated timelines, what that's going to look like, and we'll be taking questions and answers on that. So we will be looking forward to seeing you all again tomorrow. Subscribe, share. Go ahead, James. Sorry.
Yeah. So if you would like to come out to my conference, it's called the Super Soldier Activation Conference, supersoldiercon.com. That's going to be October 8th to 12th in Orlando, Florida. We've got 22 SSP veterans, or most of them are actually super soldiers, and I'd love to see you. So also, it's not just MedBed specifically. Trump has a message about Greenland, also Panama Canal, and it goes into a few other things, not just MedBeds, but overall just disclosure. So you'll enjoy that message. I think you will.
Absolutely.
If you're a Trump fan.
Yeah, and actually another thing, another great thing. James's channel has literally hundreds of interviews of people over the years that have been in the various programs. Michael Sala, Dr. Michael Sala, has a huge channel of background with other people. Elena Denon has a ton of information on all these different programs information. Dan Winter, there are literally thousands of videos out there with all these different people all collaborating the same information. So for Grandma Knows Best, I would strongly suggest doing some research, putting down your Cheetos and your Mountain Dew, and actually doing research on it, because if you look and you take the time, you're going to find that there's actually a really large amount of data that's out there, and it's being released through multiple channels. James has really gone out of his way to start bringing this information out. This is not an easy path to take anytime you're bringing this type of information to the forefront, but there really is a lot of information out there if you have the time or you really want to dig deep and you're curious and you want to learn more. So I'll always put those links down at the bottom. Dr. Michael Sala, Dan Winter, there's other Super Soldier, James's channel. And for anybody that's out there, please subscribe and share to James's channel. Find him on Rumble. And same time, same place tomorrow, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.